Episode of Trusted Heard Live. It is episode 21, and we are so honored and happy to have Lucy Williams here with JBC Reach. Lucy, how are you?
I'm good. My palms are sweaty. I'm good.
You'll be great. You'll be great. For everyone who's just joining, I'll give you a moment or two to refresh that browser so you can see the live stream. If you are new to Trusted Heard Live, tell you a little bit about what's going on. What's not going on right now are events. So we're like, what could we do that reminds us all about why we enjoy doing events and the stories behind companies that we know and we apply and we work for. And originally I thought, hey, maybe we can get like 5 people to do 5 episodes of Trusted Heard Live. And now we're booked, I think, past 30, which is amazing. And we've had incredible partners and companies come on to share their story. So really honored today to have Lucy share the story of JBC Reach, which is a little bit different than any of the previous Trusted Heard Lives we've heard. So it'll be great to hear that insight. Real quick, we always do this most of the time. So Lucy, if anybody hits that like or that heart button below and the share button to like a favorite group, their own page, etc., what can the audience win today?
We are doing 2 $30 gift certificates, but it's basically to any restaurant or business that you choose in your area, since we want to support our local businesses. So you just get in touch with us or me specifically, and I will hook you up.
Nice, awesome, great. So let's see here. Got a handful of people watching right now. I see those likes and those hearts flying in. So again, we'll give you guys, because if you're watching now or later tonight or in 2 days, we'll give you 48 hours. So like and heart that if you're watching after the fact, share it to your group or your page. And $30 gift card, 2 winners. Not 2 like that, just 2 like that. To a local restaurant or place around you. So very exciting. Thank you, Lucy and JBC Reach. Very generous. Let's jump right into it. First question has absolutely nothing to do with events. Curveball. No, if you're not doing events, Lucy, or not doing JBC Reach, like, what are your hobbies? What do you like to do typically?
Well, one of the reasons that I'm in a kitchen right now is, so I was going to say cooking, but I will preface that by saying cooking normally, cooking, in the middle of a pandemic where you have to do it all the time, every day, is for a family is kind of annoying. So it's not as enjoyable, but I've been making bread, pasta, muffins, cookies, every single different type of food.
Nice.
Ever. Yeah, and then we have 2 big dogs, a little adorable son that you've seen, and just hiking around with them and working off the bread and the pasta, I guess.
I know. I was telling Lucy before we got on camera. I was like, I have the little tyke swing set in my back. Behind me, she's got like the professional set that she's set herself on. You can see the nice fruit bowl over there with the perfectly placed apples or pears, whatever those are. So showing me up a little bit, Lucy.
I mean, yours is more real. So.
Cool. Well, really good insight just on yourself. How about if I didn't know you or I didn't know JBC Reach and we met at an event or somewhere else? Like, how would you describe the company that you're with and what you do?
Yeah, so JBC Reach is a small company inside of a bigger company. And as JBC Reach, we have a big focus on pop-ups, conferences, traditional experiential, as well as some larger sampling clients. And while we are small and nimble, we have the resources of a much bigger company, which means a real HR department. We are fully compliant everywhere, every state, and then we pay weekly, which I think is important.
Yeah, and I didn't know that. So JBC Reach came onto my radar, and then I think we had gotten in touch, and I learned JBC is actually a much bigger company.
Mm-hmm.
So what are some of the other things that the parent company or other divisions focus on?
Yeah, so I can, this will probably wind up answering another question, but basically, JBC was originally started in 2003 as a field marketing company by Brian Zaslow, if you want to look him up. And for, it's kind of a romantic story, but his wife was a fashion recruiter. So it kind of morphed immediately into JBC Style, which was going to be this small little company focused on fashion. That wound up being the company that immediately took off. And so the field marketing, I don't want to say went away, like, there's definitely some roots there, but like it was an afterthought. And then they moved to JBC Connect, which focuses on advertising, media, front-end technology placements, anything that might traditionally support, originally anything that supported fashion, but now like some of our clients are more like Hulu, HBO, United Music Group, Paramount, all of those types of companies as well. Every kind of fashion company you can think of. We also have an executive search firm that kind of focuses on C-level placements across all industries. And then something called JBC Platform, which is primarily New York, New Jersey, tri-state, and they do like more logistics and kind of getting things to where they need to be. That's not, like sometimes they'll do like event production support as well, but more for like the manual labor part of it.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, all right. So we learned a little bit about JBC Reach and the parent company of JBC Holdings. Let's talk a little bit and shift gears about your background. So before you got into the event world, what could we find Lucy Williams doing?
I mean, so many things. But funnily enough, my very first job while I was still in college was as a traditional recruiter in the fintech space, financial and technology space.
Okay.
And then, I recruited myself into a client and got a real job in technology, and then stayed there for a while, and it's a whole long story, but at one point in about 2009, 2009, I took a huge left turn, started a clothing company, and that was interesting, and I think that was sort of my first foray into experiential, because we were working with some nonprofits and doing like a lot of events to get to get eyeballs on our brand, obviously, and then raise money for these different charities.
Yeah.
So and then that came to an end because fashion's hard. and the next thing that kind of came into my lap, like very much into my lap, was experiential, and specifically staffing for experiential.
And so what was like your first experience in the world of event marketing? Did it really come through that recruiting firm, or was it
No. So I had a friend of mine who was an event producer in New York, and very, very high level, like always worked with like luxury clients, was just absolutely killing it. Made the transition out to LA.
Okay.
And was trying to get a full-time job, and she kept just finding projects and never something stable. So she wound up, every time like an Airbnb fell through or whatever, like she would stay with me and like at the time, my future husband, and at one point she got a gig doing experiential staffing, and it was for the Airbnb Open. And she just, I don't want to say she was in over her head, but she was used to like planning the details and the overall big picture, and had never managed the people part before. And so, schedules kept changing. She kept trying to like print out PDFs of schedules, and it was a nightmare. And so I jumped in to help, and it's 6 years later. And following that exact experience, like the next thing was a campaign for Uniqlo. And so I was like, I really don't know what a brand ambassador is. So I decided to stand in the store and like try to be a brand ambassador for a while.
How did it go?
I'm not good. I'm not good. I respect everyone so much. Like I was, I'm nervous now just talking to you, but the blood pumps in my ears at the thought of having to talk to people in real life constantly. For me, it was nerve-wracking, but eye-opening.
Yeah, yeah. So you had spent quite a bit of time at another agency, doing a ton of events and experiential. And I think I had saw Darlene made a comment here. She's like, I wondered where you went. Darlene, you should work for JBC Reach. They're a wonderful company. But what was attractive, or how did you end up getting linked into JBC Reach? Because at the time, JBC Reach didn't exist, right? And so can you talk a little bit about kind of how that came to be?
Yeah. I mean, honestly, it was straight up recruitment. They called me. The timing happened to be insanely good. And they gave me the opportunity to launch this portion of the business and have ownership of it. And, people had previously asked me, like, why don't you just start your own firm? And there's a lot of reasons. Like I had a company already. Also, it's just, you have to be committed to the day-to-day operations and all of the back-end stuff, which is, it's very stressful. And it's like you have a family, and you just want some security, and I feel like we all feel that word right now. But it was just attractive to be part of something that was potentially larger, or is much larger, and has a lot of different touch points, and just like even just some flexibility within the company of what we can do.
Yeah. Great. So JBC Reach contacts you. You jump on the team. You are leading up JBC Reach, correct? Very cool. And was there like a purpose or mission behind JBC Holdings wanting to start this division of their company?
I think it was just from recognizing that, the event staffing world was different than the traditional staffing that they had been doing. And, it's part of one of my other answers, which I don't know how these questions are going. But, basically because of the fashion aspect of JBC, they were always getting pop-up store requests, and that can take many different forms, where like some clients just want retail staff for their pop-ups, and then others want a full service solution, so that we're bringing in all the staff, we're managing the schedules and all that stuff. And that was something that they really were not as familiar with doing, which is like the scheduling aspect of it, and kind of having full ownership of what happens when people, instead of just turning them over to the client and saying, you deal with these. So, they just came to realize, like, okay, this needs to be its own thing. It can't sit under style. Obviously it doesn't belong under Connect. So it became JBC Reach. And then, as part of my answer to this question, I just kind of have a personal mission in all of this, which I feel like is not quite completed yet. But I did want to say that, who knows where I put this answer? Just my personal mission is, this understanding that brand ambassadors are also consumers, and that clients should look at and treat the brand ambassadors as the same way that they would treat a client, because everybody buys Coca-Cola products, or everybody buys Honest Tea, and everybody buys toothpaste. So
really, that's a really good perspective, and I don't know if I've ever even thought about that. Right, is that you really are just as much the target demographic. A lot of it.
Yeah, I mean, and I was going to say, I still haven't done it, but at some point I want to walk into a client's office with like a big pitch book of, their average consumer, and just be like, haha, they're all brand ambassadors.
I like that. I like it. So the name JBC Reach, I can imagine where JBC comes from. Was there something a little bit more behind putting the second word there of reach?
A marketing team. Yeah. I mean, I forget what I like first put forth, and then just the idea that you are, it's more than just that in-person moment. Your brand experience touches all different points of marketing, and so it's a reach.
No, that's good. I like it. It makes a lot of sense. So typically here, Lucy, we would ask about like, who was your first client? What do you remember about him? JBC Reach just launched. When was it?
Really May of 2019 officially.
Okay, so almost about a year ago. I would assume you remember who your first client was. And just so happens I have a picture. What are the chances of that first client? So I'm going to throw it up on the screen here. Give it a little solo action. Tell us a little bit about this first program.
It was a store opening for Charlotte Tilbury at the Grove in Los Angeles, and it was kind of a small event. Those were really the only two brand ambassadors there, but it was a multi-day program, and I think the funnest part about it was, since it is a makeup brand, they went in an hour before they were supposed to go out and like start talking to people, and got full makeup. And the girls looked amazing. So I don't know. I think we can all imagine, well, at least the girls can imagine, like getting great makeup from Charlotte Tilbury, and then getting to talk about the brand. It's like, you look great, you feel great. You're gonna nail those talking points. Like
I was just shaking my head yes as you were like, the girls are all about getting the makeup done, and I can imagine that. And I'm like, Brian, why are you shaking your head yes? I've never done that. So
I don't know that you
have. Good stuff. Cool. First program. Let's talk a little bit about another one here. Again, just so happens I have these pictures queued up. What was going on in this one?
Yeah, that was a program for Hertz during the Super Bowl. It was a loyalty program down in Miami. Basically, they had invited a bunch of Hertz customers who had gotten tickets to the Super Bowl, to kind of get shuttled for free to and from. So obviously, parking at the Super Bowl was just a nightmare. And so they just made very enjoyable rides to and from. Good brand experience. There was some celebrity interaction with people on the bus, and it was a good time.
Looks like a good time. I mean, I think I'd much rather wear a swimsuit if I'm next to a pool, but
it was just for the photo. They didn't have to stand by the pool all day.
Looks great. Cool. And then we do have one more here that looks like a scene that could be probably not from 2020 because I don't know many.
Not from 2020, but this one was pretty amazing, actually. It was for Overheard New York. And, I hadn't initially put this one up because whatever. This was one of those things where I heard about it and I was like, this is not going to work. And it worked. And so I was proven wrong, which, we'll find out soon, happens all the time. It was like 6 a.m. Everyone had to get there at 6 a.m. There was like a guerrilla street marketing component. They were trying to get a bunch of people in the subways. I'm like, seriously? Like, we're going to put people in the subways during rush hour? And we had a total of about 50 people, and it was a 3-day activation. And and it worked. It was good.
So was their job during that time just to ride around the train? Was that it?
There was a few different components. So there was 2 different teams, or 3 different teams. 4 teams total. Sorry, I'm like 2, 3, 4. No, there was a team that was primarily outside. One was in Brooklyn. One was in New York. And in New York, they were by Union Square. And there was like a whole kiosk, like a magazine kiosk where these things were being sold and not sold, not for free, along with some other goodies. And so, there was, again, that was like the street component. And then there were 2 teams riding the subway all around, just with these papers out. No
Yeah.
complaints. I was so surprised.
Right? It's just not something. I mean, I'm trying to think of the last time that I was in, a train or subway, which we call here the L. You maybe see 1 or 2 people holding a newspaper, if one, a second person.
I was like, you're gonna get punched. But it didn't happen. It was
That's great. Cool. All right. Let's see what we got here. How about JBC is a huge company. Can you talk a little bit about team and what it means to JBC Reach?
Yeah, I mean, team is obviously everything. Our team is interesting because we can bring people in and out of different groups if we need to. But for just the people that we have working, and especially in our LA office where I am all the time, everyone is amazingly dedicated, full of just positive energy.
Yeah.
I like to think that I'm like a nice person, which is silly, but like everyone that I work with is just a really genuinely kind and empathetic person, and also super reliable, consistent, always where they say they're going to be, doing what they said that they were going to do. So
Yeah.
that's amazing.
Well, on that, based off of what you just said, I remember you had reached out to me maybe about a month and a half ago, and I thought it was really, really cool. You had called and said, Brian, I want to do something for event workers. I want to do something that they can leverage and hopefully have as a skill set. So when events do come back, they can put that to use. And so, do you remember what it was you asked me about?
Yeah, of course. It's about the Red Cross first aid training, which is first aid, CPR, and AED training. It's all online. We've gotten about 60 people done, and there's still 9 more people on the waiting list. I'm just waiting for a few people to finish up theirs. Not sure how many more we're going to do. I have a call with the Red Cross coming up, but the general point here was one, just kind of being worried about people's safety, and kind of being a little bit forward thinking that when we do come out of this, safety protocols are going to be kind of tantamount to where everyone's thinking, and maybe first aid isn't like top of the list, but it's definitely a good skill to have, and at least showcases that you have some situational awareness, understand how to help people, are motivated to help people.
I think it's big. And,
trying over here.
I think it's amazing that the JBC Reach did that, and you kind of put that into action, because it will matter. And when workers are applying for jobs, whether it's through JBC Reach or another company, and look, if all things are the same, and this person has a certification that they've gone through training at the Red Cross, I think that it's a bonus, right? Especially when events start rolling back up. So,
well, and I was just going to say also, like, there's a lot of time that people spend not at work, and with hospitals being overtaxed the way that they are, it's like, if you can quickly jump in and help save a life, and keep our healthcare workers from having to deal with another situation, like, by all means, please do.
Yeah, I completely agree. Lucy, you've been in the event world for a while. You've transitioned successfully to JBC Reach, and you lead it, and you guys do some amazing events. I always see the jobs come through on Trusted Herd, and I'm like, that one's cool, that one's cool, that one's cool. I want to work that one. Do you think that you have habits, or I know this is always like a tricky question. No one likes talking about themselves, but things that you think have helped you along the way, whether it's personality or something that you've learned from, when you've started in the event industry to right now?
Yeah, I mean, I think number one is actually liking people and enjoying people. And you know, I totally understand that people make mistakes, people fail, and I've failed. I've made so many mistakes. I can't, I can't keep my head like wrapped around them. But it's the I was gonna say like one of my favorite quotes is from Thomas Edison, who says, I haven't failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that don't work,
Yeah.
and the idea like of just kind of the resiliency of being like oopsies, like owning up to whatever it is, that was maybe not the best, or trying something and failing, and then at the end of that, just brush, shake, and keep moving forward.
Yeah, you got to. It's how we all learn, how we all grow, right?
Yeah.
Let's see here. One piece of advice you might give to event workers just in general.
I wrote so much stuff here, so I don't know what kind of time limits we have, but I might try to go through all of it, which is one on the event footprint. Anytime that my basic advice is just be like a duck in terms of like it's just water off of a duck's back. You're typically not on an event footprint for very long.
Yeah.
Things are gonna go wrong. Things are gonna do. People are gonna do things. Someone's gonna say something that you interpret as a slight, and maybe it is, maybe it isn't. But like the only thing that you can control is how you interpret it. And so like I'm not saying like, hey, be a doormat, but like just understand that this thing is happening in this moment, and like soon it will be over, and who cares? Like don't let one bad interaction ruin your day.
Yeah.
And then I was gonna say, like, for the most part, like with that, these are people you're not gonna see ever again. If it's someone that you are on a long program with, or um, we'll be working, we just are going to be working with consistently, then at that point, like, yes, you talk to HR, you talk to your manager, and like, you try to get a handle on what the issue is, and resolve it. But for just like one-off things, and you know, just some passing comment, like just don't let it ruin you. Don't let it ruin your day. Don't let it ruin your experience. It's your reaction is up to you. You control that.
Yeah.
And then I was gonna say too, don't look at your phone. And I know like duh, like no client wants you to be on the phone, but there's been more than like one instance where someone's boyfriend or girlfriend has like said something on the phone to make them mad during an activation, and like their mood darkens, and their rest of the day is shot. So don't look at your phone.
I almost go back to the picture that we just showed a few minutes ago of everyone in the subway with the newspapers, right?
Mhm.
And use that analogy and that equivalent of like Brandon Masters being on site today. And yes, I know the phone fits in the palm of your hand, but if this was 50 years ago, it would be the equivalent of you holding up a newspaper in front of your face and like tuning out everybody else, right?
So true. So true. And so then I have advice for now, if anyone wants to hear it, which, it's very easy to, be disheartened and lose momentum right now. And Brian, I just want to 100% commend you, because, this all hit and you're like, action plans, I've got them. I'm like, in moving forward. And, you have a small child who's smaller than mine, and you also have a wife who works, and, you've just been grinding every day, which I super commend. Like, there was a point where I was like, I don't know what I'm doing right now, which is just being totally honest. So my advice for just everyone else who's potentially listening is to, set small goals for yourself, especially if you're having issues with motivation. And like, the goals can be so small. It could be like, making your bed every morning, and just, consistently writing down and giving yourself things to check off that you're accomplishing. Because if you can accomplish those things every day, then you can add more things and just get in the habit of accomplishing what you set out to do.
Yeah.
And then I was going to say, get creative. I have a friend who said when she was a little girl, like she loved to make puppet shows and like, you know, put them on for her family, and was like, if there was ever a time to just make a puppet show, like, go for it. Like, you know, there's no time like the present. You know, be creative, do whatever the heck you want to do now that brings you joy. And like, maybe it'll monetize, maybe it won't, but like, why not just try it? And then lastly, if you have a brand that you love and you've worked with, go deep, you know, learn as much about the brand as you can. Feel free to interact with them on social media. Feel free to create content. You may or may not ever get paid for it, but like when this lifts, like positioning yourself as a true brand advocate is helpful.
It is helpful, and somebody on the receiving side who's managing that social media, it's not a massive company that outsources that. They realize that. I remember when we started social marketing, this was 5+ years ago. And my co-founder, we were like, how are we going to drum up business? And he was really talented on design work. And so we wanted to work with this brand called Beer Salt, which you've probably seen it at gas stations or convenience stores. It comes in like a little bottle that you pour on top of your beer. And Vic was so talented. He took a picture of a Chicago snowplow and actually branded it Beer Salt, and was like, we could do this campaign and we could have these snow trucks going around, and we posted it on social media and tagged them, and it actually led to a handful of conversations. Now, nothing actually came of it in terms of like work, but that's just like, if you can do something right now that shows being really genuine, you are a super advocate, like brands love that and they see it, and it is such an opportunity. So that's my Beer Salt story.
And I have not heard of Beer Salt because I don't put salt in my beer.
Big down in Texas, I think that's where they're from.
That makes sense. That makes sense.
Yes.
My husband loves like the micheladas, and then you put the tangent in it, which you
Not 5 o'clock yet here, Lucy.
Not yet.
Hey everyone, if you're just watching right now, we're here with the Senior Director of JBC Reach. Her name is Lucy Williams. She is amazing. JBC Reach is amazing. They've put up 2 $30 gift cards, so you have 48 hours from when this is originally airing. So hit that like button, hit that heart button, and hit the share button to your favorite group or your own page. And in 48 hours, we'll come back to this video and we'll announce the winners. So Lucy, we talked a little bit about event workers. I do want to give JBC Reach a plug. Like, if people like what they're hearing, and I've now already talked about all the cool events that you do, how can they find you and access JBC Reach jobs?
JBCReach.com is the easiest way. But to be honest, we put all jobs on Trusted Herd. I think we're super light right now. The first things that we have, which in my mind are still potentially aspirational, or just some pop-up shops that are happening in NorCal and the Hamptons. But for right now, there's still a go.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know.
Good stuff. Did we touch on this yet? What advice, I know we talked about for event workers, but what advice you would have for brands right now?
I think it is kind of the same thing from earlier, which is that just kind of remembering that, you know, your brand ambassadors don't have to be just these event workers that you only interact with on a footprint. Especially, like, you know, we've all been to an event where it's like you're getting trained and you get trained for an hour beforehand. Presumably everyone has time right now. So, you know, if you have ambassadors, you know, or a program that you've worked with, you know, great people that you remember working with, like, I think it's a great time to train them deeply and create like true brand advocates who will advocate for you, whether they are on a, you know, 100-foot footprint or just walking around in their everyday lives. So it's a good time to train and invest in online training if you can.
Love it. This is Juliana said, hoping for work in Chicago again soon. Can't wait to get back to it. I agree with you. I'm also and desperately wanting some events in my life. Hey, we did talk about this a little earlier before jumping on camera, and I want to ask it to you right now. If you had advice for someone who's thinking about starting an event company, right? I mean, I think it's really attractive right now because things are at a standstill. You do have a lot of time. You can plan with all of this time. If someone is out there thinking about like, hey, I want to about to throw my hat into the ring of event staffing or some other business, what would you maybe tell them that they're not thinking about?
I mean, I think for, we did touch upon this, like when people asked like why I didn't want to just start an event company. And I think that, if you are going to do it and everyone can, have their dreams and that's great, but you have to truly make sure that you have the business acumen, the financial backing, stability, and ability to like negotiate contracts, pay people every week. That would be great. Every 2 weeks, sure. But Trusted Herd has a ton of companies who are not in the top 50, and that's because some of them can't pay their people, and we don't need more of those. So I don't know. Focus on making sure that you truly can do it, and you have the financial backing to do it, even if like your clients don't pay you exactly on time, because your responsibility is to pay your workers.
Yeah.
And then I was gonna say, like, I see complaints all the time if I didn't get paid, whatever. And I think that if you truly do think that you have enough client connections to potentially make a business, you might also just want to consider pitching yourself to an event agency that you really like, and say, hey, here are the clients that I can bring you, and negotiate yourself a deal. Get a feel for being on the other side of it with a little bit of a safety net first. And then, if you want to grow your wings from there, sure. But I wouldn't just say, run into it blind.
Yeah, I think that's great advice because there is so much that goes on behind the scenes, and you do have that responsibility when you do take on an event contract and you do hire a team. That team is expecting pay, and you have a responsibility to make sure that you do that in a timely fashion. But what you just said, Lucy, about if you think you can do this, find an event agency right now and offer up that skills and cut yourself a deal in between, because you're going to get all the benefits of being able to bring whatever campaign you want to life, getting people opportunity, but having that backing of a legitimate company. So I think that's really good advice. Lucy, we are at the end of all of the planned questions. If anybody,
you missed one.
Did I miss one? Uh-oh.
It was like, what do you look for in someone who wants to work events in the company?
Yes. Okay. So while we ask that question to Lucy, and I'm going to ask that to her instead of her reminding me, so I did not forget it. If you do have any questions for Lucy or about JBC Reach, drop it in the comment section below while she answers this. Lucy, I do have one more question for you.
Okay.
What do you look for? What does JBC Reach look for in workers who want to work for your company?
One thing, we always do these in-person interviews. They kind of look like this, but I mean, they're much shorter. I think, first and foremost is that someone knows how to engage with another human. Some people want to just do phone interviews or not interview at all. I need someone who can look at me or someone on my team, laugh at our jokes. If we smile, they smile. Like they know how to interact with humans. Like that's the basic thing. And then also, I just wanted to tell a little story about just being flexible. There's just a lot of VAs who will tell you like, I don't do directional work, or I can't do greeting. I'm better than this, and it's like, okay, cool. I don't know you, and what you're telling me is that you can't hold a sign for $22 an hour. So, but you want to be in a lead, like, okay. And like, I ran an event or a conference a little bit over a year ago, We had 200 people working. And guess who got the most compliments from my client, from event staff? It was a directional standing by an escalator. And everyone came back to me and was like, oh my God, like that, she is like the most amazing worker I've ever seen. She smiles at everyone, like, has a quick conversation, points them in the right direction, so engaging, so lovely. What do you think? Like, what do you think her next roles were? Like, bam, team lead all the time, like, or something of equal pay, because that's a rock star.
Yeah, yeah. It's so good. Put that foot in the door, work one event, show yourself, prove yourself. And I'm a firm believer if you're a hard worker and the ethics shows, that more opportunities will come your way.
100%.
Lucy, we have now asked all of the questions as far as is there anything that you'd like to leave the audience watching now or tomorrow or watching this video later on?
No, just hi. No, we're gonna have to cut this part out.
You're good. Very thorough. So everybody, this has been episode 21. It's been a lot of fun having Lucy Williams, the senior director over at JBC Reach, join us. Tomorrow we will have Guerrilla Roots Marketing joining us, Jordan, and he's really, really excited to do this. So it is Friday. Bring your beverage with us, with you. We'll do a little happy hour during it. And then next week, the schedule is all up there on the events tab of the Facebook group page. And I think that's it. I mean, wonderful Thursday. Again, Lucy, thank you for joining us. And we will see you all tomorrow at 3:30 Central, not 4:15 Central like today. All right, everybody. Thanks again.
Bye.